I think I just ripped a hole in my pants. I mean, I guess it's not all bad because today's English lesson is about how you can use the word rip in English. Let me tell you, there are a lot of ways. If we are going to talk about all the ways you can use rip in English, maybe we should talk about what rip means first. You can rip a piece of paper. You can rip a pair of pants. It basically means take one thing and split it into two, or tear it into two or more pieces. Rip and tear pretty much mean the same thing. Let's say somebody is having a birthday and their friend gets them a present, and that present is wrapped. They could rip open that wrapping paper. Usually when you rip something, it's done with a quick motion. Let's talk about the first English phrasal verb you might hear with rip, and that is rip up. Now that means to tear something up. That means to split something up really quickly, like really quickly. Maybe you have some homework, some English homework done on paper, but you did it the wrong way and you are mad or you are frustrated. You could rip up that homework. So much of English homework is done on a computer now, so you might not be able to rip up your English homework. Just like telephones. Remember when we used to have the ones that had the cord and you got mad at somebody, you could just slam the phone down. It's not quite the same with a cell phone. If you do that too hard, you might break it. You could also rip up a check. Do you know what a check is? It's a piece of paper that acts like money, but not too many people use checks anymore. They probably just use a credit card. But maybe you were writing out your check and maybe you wrote the wrong name on it. You probably want to rip it up just so somebody else doesn't use it and steal your money. We can also use rip up as slang, something like this: let's rip it up on Friday night. If you use it that way, it's like you're partying. You want to go out with friends. Who knows, maybe some alcohol is involved, but probably a good time is going to be had if you rip it up on Friday night. Oh yeah, and did I mention it snowed? If you have been watching this channel for a long time, you know I don't really like snow. And of course, you can party without alcohol. I know a lot of people watching do not drink alcohol, and that's probably a good thing. You'll probably live a little bit longer. Another way we might use rip in English is let it rip. Let it rip. You usually say this before you do something really cool, really big, maybe something dangerous. Let's say you are lighting off fireworks. I once did an English lesson at a fireworks store, and right before you are going to light the fuse, you might say, all right, let her rip. Sometimes we use that pronoun too, let her rip. How about soccer or football? When I'm recording this right now, there is a World Cup game going on. I'm recording this during halftime, but let's say there is a penalty shot and you're telling your friend, like, whoa, he let that one rip. So if somebody kicks the ball really hard, you might say that, whoa, he let that one rip. Let her rip. If you are enjoying this English lesson, do you mind hitting that like button? Thanks so much. Maybe you're fixing a car. I don't know how to fix a car. Hopefully you do. And you think that it might not be running. The engine might not be working. So you do a little work and you fix it. And maybe your friend is going to start the engine for you. You could say, all right, let her rip when you're ready for that engine to get started. How about this one? This one might be my favorite. You could rip into somebody. When you rip into somebody, that means you're really mad at them. You're probably yelling at them. Let's say you are driving in a car and somebody cuts you off. That means they get in your way really quickly. It could cause an accident. Hopefully you smash the brakes and stop the car, but maybe you're really mad and then you see that person, you could rip into them. You might yell at them. You might say, what were you thinking? You almost hit me. I also did an English lesson on car accidents. There's a link right in the description, along with that lesson I did at a fireworks store. How about this English phrasal verb? Rip out. You could rip out a page from a book. You might be so mad you want to rip out your hair. How about this one? My basement flooded this summer. I made an English lesson about that too. We had to rip everything out of the basement so that it could be fixed. Everything got wet down there. So you could rip out something, meaning you have to take everything out of that room, everything out of that part of the house. Yeah, we had to rip out everything in the basement. And I'm not talking just beds like where my children slept. I'm talking about parts of the wood, walls. We had to rip out the doors. It wasn't fun. What about rip off? We use rip off two ways. One, you could get ripped off. And that means when you buy something and you pay more money than you should have. Somebody ripped you off. They charged you too much money for that item. But you could also rip meat off the bone. Maybe you like chicken. Maybe you like chicken wings. And maybe you are so hungry, you just rip the meat off the bone. Is it weird? I don't like eating meat on the bone. I like eating it boneless, which is one reason why I never have chicken wings. The next one is rip through. I do not like this one at all because it usually means things are getting destroyed. Maybe a tornado rips through a town. Maybe a hurricane rips through the beach. I also think you could have maybe like a small child who wrecks a lot of things, destroys a lot of things. Maybe there are some grandparents and they are watching their grandson. Maybe he's a little destructive and he ripped through their living room, destroying a lot of things. If you're studying English, hopefully you're doing a lot of reading and hopefully you find an English book that you really like. Well, if you read a lot of it at one time, you could say, oh man, that book was so good. I ripped through it in like an hour. Another way to say you read it really quickly because it was so good. And I like this next one even less because it has something to do with death. When you see R.I.P. that stands for rest in peace. A lot of Americans will say that after they have heard that somebody has died. They might say rest in peace. You might see that on somebody's tombstone, RIP, and also some slang. Let's say your phone died. Maybe you got it wet or something and it no longer works. Younger people in the United States, much younger than me, I'm a very old man, but some of my students who are 13 or 14 years old, they might say RIP when they talk about the phone that died. It is getting cold. My hands are freezing. I'm going to go inside and warm up, English phrasal verb for you. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the lesson. If you want even more English, right up there is another deep dive lesson I did on the word brush. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.